Today I'm sharing 5 ideas under $5 for decorating for fall. If you love cozy autumn vibes on a budget, these simple and creative DIYs are perfect for you. Welcome to the Chic Show. Today's playlist is hosted by Emily at Farm Charm Chic. Her channel and the playlist is in the description box below. This is one of the small 4x4 canvases from Dollar General, and this is a napkin from Hobby Lobby. In order to do this, I'm adding in some tumbling tower blocks to the back of my canvas just so I have a solid surface. I'm going to be painting on some matte Mod Podge and then let it dry. In the meantime, I'm going to remove all plies of the napkin except for the top one with the print on it. And I'm going to be using the iron-on method. So once the Mod Podge is dry, you can add your 1 ply of napkin and then use an iron to reactivate that Mod Podge, and that napkin will stick nicely with no wrinkles. I always like to pay special attention around the edges to make sure that those edges are not lifted at all. And then once this is complete and cooled off, you can sand away the excess napkin. Next, I seal in my napkin with more Mod Podge and let that dry. Now, while the iron-on method does prevent wrinkles, the napkin does have a little bit of texture. So when the Mod Podge is dry, I'm going to go over the entire piece with some clear wax. Then I'm going to add some dark wax to bring out the texture of this piece. I'll rub it on with a paper towel, and then a clean paper towel I'll use to go back and rub it back. I also made sure to rub around the edges just to give kind of a highlighted, shadowy effect. I used resin in this Dollar Tree silicone mold, but I like the way it looks upside down, so I'm going to flip my pumpkin over and add the stems to the top. I gave the pumpkin a coat of Chestnut Mare by Fusion. I also used Fusion paint in Woodwick on the stem. I did use some watered down brown acrylic paint just to paint over to give it some depth. I used hot glue and Titebond Quick and Thick to glue my pumpkin to the front of the canvas. Once everything was secure, I went back with a little bit of gold rub and buff around the edge of the canvas as well as the edges of the pumpkin. While the resin for this project is definitely an investment, you could also use Crayola Model Magic. It's a way to give these dollar store items high impact. Searching. I made this beautiful pumpkin using Canva, and then I printed it out at home with my computer and printer on regular printer paper. The frame is from Dollar General, and I absolutely love it. It was $5, and I'm tracing around the glass in the frame to cut out my pumpkin. I'm also using these stamps that I've had for a while that I got at Tuesday morning when they were closing. You can see I attempted this at the bottom of the pumpkin previously and it did not go so well. So what I did was I cut a piece of paper from a vintage book that was in rather poor shape, and I just used that piece of paper, re-stamped it, and it turned out perfectly, and then I glued that over the previous messed up version. I used a simple glue stick, and then I cut away the excess and added this piece to the frame. For this project, I'm using this vintage piece of sheet music and one of the Bountiful Harvest stamps from IOD. Now, you would not need to use the stamp. You could simply print out a pattern from the computer and trace that onto your music, and then just add on a few pumpkin lines for each of the sections. But I had the stamp, so I figured I would use it. I'm just going to stamp that right down on the music and then cut it out. This is one of the wood pieces from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to give it a coat of this nice light orange paint. I'm adding Mod Podge to the back of my pumpkin, and then I will place that down onto the wood piece, and the bottom of that pumpkin I will cut off. I use my sander to sand around the edges and also to remove any of the paper at the bottom that I may not have gotten with my scissors. I chose to use some of IOD's rub-on transfers, but Dollar Tree has rub-on transfers as well, and they are beautiful, and I have done this project before using those. I chose the flowers I wanted, and I'm just going to be adding those to the top of this pumpkin. I used a top coat just to seal everything in nicely, and then I decided to add a little bit of gold. Now I'm using some gold transfers. Dollar Tree also has these, and if you don't have those, you could use Rub and Buff or even a gold pen just to add some accents. I used a little bit of antique wax just to rub over the entire piece. You can certainly use Waverly antique wax watered down just a little bit and use a baby wipe and wipe it on.
Searching.
Got this piece at the Goodwill bins. It looks like at Goodwill it was previously $1.99 and originally from TJ Maxx for $12.99. I gave the front piece a coat of 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint in plaster, and now I'm painting on a coat of Mod Podge, and I'm going to set that aside to dry. Decoupage paper is a really inexpensive way to add something really nice to a piece. This welcome was from a Dollar Tree sign that was from something that I used previously. And this decoupage paper is recycled decoupage paper. Usually they run between $4 and $7. This one is from Sonnet's Maker's Box. Spray painted the welcome with a brown spray paint, and now I'm just deciding exactly where I want everything on the sign. Then I will cut my decoupage paper, and I'm going to be using the iron-on method. This is a piece of Teflon that I put on top, and I always start in the middle and iron outwards to remove any wrinkles, and also paying special attention to the edges. When I remove the Teflon, I do double check to make sure all of the edges are adhered. Using a sanding sponge, I just go around the edges and sand away that excess paper just to give it a nice finished edge. Just to accent the edge of the letters a little bit, I use some gold Rub and Buff and a brush. I found these pine cones in my neighborhood, and I started by trying to hand paint these, which I figured out later spray paint would just be a whole lot easier and I would get better coverage. But before I did that, I did go ahead and I tried to make this one look like a candy corn, and I did have to hand paint part of it because I didn't have yellow spray paint. But once I took them outside, I gave one a coat of black spray paint, one a coat of orange spray paint, and one a coat of white spray paint. And I also used that spray paint to freshen up the white and orange on the candy corn pine cone. I hope you like these. It's very simple, very inexpensive. That's it for today's 5 ideas for decorating for fall. I hope these simple DIYs brought you some cozy autumn vibes and inspiration for your home. Don't forget to check out Emily's channel and the playlist in the description box below. And for more inspiration, check out this video right here. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to share the chic. Bye now.